Hello YouTube, we're going to be talking about squats and deadlifts today. I personally really like squats and deadlifts to put on size and for hypertrophy purposes. I want to be honest with you, almost all of my lower body gains came from squats and deadlifts because that's all I've ever done. I built up my hamstrings, my glutes, and my lower back doing deadlifts and deadlift variations, and I built up my quads and my glutes and hips and everything doing squat variations. I never did hack squats, I never did leg press, I never did leg extensions of any kind, leg curls, because squats and deadlifts put on so much size on my body that I never had to branch out at all. Do I recommend that for everyone? No. But I do think that these two lifts, if you can do them properly, are going to be your best friends when it comes to lower body and leg hypertrophy as a whole. That being said, it shouldn't mean that you have to do them all the time. I personally only deadlift, meaning conventional deadlift with heavy weight, once every 8 days, and I only squat heavy with a high bar squat position every 8 days. And the reason why I do that is because it allows me to recover from those sessions because they're usually very taxing on the body. It doesn't mean that I only pull from the floor once a week. It doesn't mean that I only do a hip hinge or a knee flexion once a week. I actually usually tend to do a knee flexion every 2 days and a hip hinge every 2 days. But I might use a different variation, I might use a different bar, and I might use less weight for more volume. But I want to make clear the fact that I do not think this method is best suited for everyone. And I was inspired to make this video by an interview I saw of a very famous Olympic weightlifter called Xun. And the guy is, of course, a legend of Chinese weightlifting. And so most people call him Lu. Of course, I'm not saying I'm at his level. I'm nowhere near his level. He's several grades above me, of course, in strength. And I would also say that in size and aesthetic, he's pretty amazing for someone who doesn't care about that. But basically what I've heard from him is that he said that he only did the Olympic lifts once in a while and that he didn't have any issues with leaving them on the side a bit to do more strength work. So for him, it was squats and deadlifts. And it made me think, because I think about it the same way for my squats and my deadlifts. The reason why I don't have to do them all the time is because I've already made the neural adaptation towards these lifts. My form on them is already perfect as form can be. Meaning that I don't have to think about it, I don't have to work on my form, I just get under the bar or grab the bar and my body knows what it's supposed to do. So I don't have to work on technique. And that's where the distinction lays. If you are someone like me who has spent so much time doing squats and deadlifts that it's like a second nature to you, you can go a bit easy on the frequency. Doesn't mean that you should only pull from the floor once a week or squat once a week, but for your heavy strength work with these lifts, you can do them only once in a while. That's not an issue. It will become an issue for novices and people who are not familiar with the lifts. I think that if you just started squatting and deadlifting, you should do those lifts several times a week if your recovery allows you to ingrain the form into your body. You don't have to go heavy all the time. You can do volume work, you can do speed pulls, you can do pause reps on the squats, you can deload if you have to, but you have to have the fortitude to force your body to go through the motion on these lifts again and again, because that's what's going to build technique. Watching YouTube videos is nice. Listening to someone tell you about form is nice, but what's going to make you remember that form for the rest of your life is going to be practice. And therefore, if you only squat and deadlift once a week, you're not getting enough practice, in my opinion. And this is where we get into the topic of skill versus strength. And that's coming from a bodybuilder. I know these terms can have different meanings if you talk about powerlifting, if you talk about holy lifting, if you talk about athleticism, all of that stuff. I'm talking as a bodybuilder. When you're a novice, and that's something I promote all the time, if you watch my novice program, if you watch my programmation videos, when you're a novice, your goal should be to raise your skill on every single lift as high as you can. Your strength should go up, but it shouldn't go above your skill, because that's when you start having poor form. And this goes against every single powerlifting program that has you put 5 pounds on the bar every time you lift. I'm against that. I think that you should really focus on the ability to move your body and to move the bar with your body in the most perfect way possible. And once you've accumulated all of that, the good thing with skills and technique is that it never really goes away. It's going to be there for the rest of your life. And I feel like, personally, your skill goes down and reduces much slower than your strength does. So once you've accumulated all of that skill, now you can focus on hypertrophy, size, strength, whatever you feel like doing. Because you know that you're always going to have that backup of skill to be able to perform lifts when you have to perform them. But if you start as a novice and you don't practice the lifts enough, and you end up with too little skill and too much strength, then trying to then apply my personal technique of only doing them once in a while, it's not going to work. Because yes, your strength is going to stay fairly high, but the way you perform the lifts is going to be poor. And strength is a transmission of energy. So if the transmission isn't smooth, someone who's weaker than you might lift more than you, or they might outperform you in their own right. And if you think about it, having so much skill on a wide variety of lifts, especially if you're a bodybuilder, is going to give you the freedom to program however you want. Because if I had to make the same program I'm running right now, but I was forced to do heavy deadlift every, 4 days or 5 days, it would mess everything up. It would mess my volume because my recovery wouldn't be there. It would mess my ability to work out every day for a long time and to put on size. So, in my opinion, this is what you should take away from this video. The type of people who can allow themselves to only squat and deadlift heavy once a week are people who already have accumulated enough skills that they can now focus on something else. For beginners, you should really focus on that skill and that technique. I want to introduce another topic that we'll be also speaking about on this channel, which is bench. You will notice I didn't mention bench, even though I do bench. Bench, in my opinion, is not the same, because for me, I don't think bench is that technical. It's much less technical than the squat and the deadlift, but it is one of the lifts that, in my case, I lose the most strength on. So I cannot allow myself to only bench once a week, because I would literally lose strength on the bench. So I will make another video talking about bench, the technicalities of the bench, and strength versus skill. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think, and have a good day.